But then the surah says, فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, you will come in your groups. I.e., suddenly, very shortly after that, you will be put into your groups. What are these groups that Allah Rabbul Alameen is referring to? Hadith described in very much detail. और यहाँ एक और हदीस पाक आती है ज़हन में, नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम हज़रत मुआज़ बिन जबल रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु, अल्लाहु अकबर, एक मर्तबा ये आयत तिलावत कर रहे थे. And he came to this point, فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا. And as he was reciting with his eyes closed, he stopped. And when he opened his eyes, and the reason why he opened his eyes and he stopped recital, because he saw Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was crying, shedding tears. When he got to this point, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam broke down. पीछे सारी सूरत सुनते आए हैं, यहाँ आकर नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम broke down. यौम युनफ़ख़ु फ़िस्सूर. Recall that day and remember, be ready for that day when the trumpet will be blown for the second time. فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, you will come forward in your groups, in your armies. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had a breakdown. As Muaz bin Jabal asks, Ya Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and because he stopped his recital, hadith, Ya Nabi Allah, kya wajah hai that you shedding tears, you had a breakdown? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ne farmaya कि I am aware that my ummah will come forward on the day of judgment in 10 groups. And over here in this one particular hadith, there's only mentioning of those 10 groups because of the major sins that they committed. Yahan sirf mujrimon ka dhikr hai, those that were sinful of the ummah, that they will come in their groups. And each sin that they used to do, a group will be made of these sinners that did one type of particular sin. They will be in that group. And another sin in that group. Another sin in that group. Wajah kya hai? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the reason why he's shedding tears is that being in that group means Allah Rabbul Alameen does not need to describe कि ये किस गुनाह में मुलव्वस था. Nobody will need to ask, bro, why are you in this group? What are you doing there? Why are you in this group or that group? It will be known by everyone on Yawmul Mahshar that you've been put in this particular group because you used to commit this type of sin. फिर नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फिर उन गुनाहों को गिनवाया one by one. And those that are taking notes, and I mentioned last week, even if you're using your phone, I don't mind you using your phone, but make notes on your phone. Yeah, using your notepads on your phone. नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि मुजरिमों की 10 गिरोह होंगे. And these are those whose bodies Allah will have deformed. उनके जिस्म बदल चुके होंगे, कोई तब्दीली आई होगी कि लोग दूर से पहचान जाएंगे, he's got this deformity because he used to commit this sin. And those deformities are mentioned and those sins are mentioned. Allahu Akbar. Number one, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described, there will be a group of those people, because I'm doing the tafseer of the word afwaja, the groups. What are the groups? And the breakdown Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had, and in elaboration of this, the first group of people, hadith described that they will come forward on the day of judgment. The body will be fine, but they will have the face of a monkey. And nobody will need to ask, bro, what have you done in life? Which major sin did you commit in your life that you landed yourself in this position? From ayah, their faces will be turned into the face of a monkey. They will be those people of my ummah that were habitual in backbiting and died upon that sin as well. Let me give another further context so that we all understand what's happening. When I mention all 10, and I'm going to mention all 10, you must remember it means they are those people that were habitual in that sin and died without making tawbah. बगैर तौबा किए दुनिया से चले गए और ऐसे गुनाहों की आदत पड़ गई कि करते करते दुनिया से चले गए, उस गुनाह से तौबा करने का मौका नहीं मिला. Allahu Akbar. So first category, first group are those that turned into monkeys because they were backbiting and were habitual in that. फिर फरमाया, there will be that group which will be turned, and their faces will be turned into they will have the face of a pig. खिंजीर की शक्ल में उनकी सूरत तब्दील कर दी जाएगी. They will come forward in that group, and they'll be in that group afwaja fatatuna afwaja. They will come in that army, in that group of those that will look like pigs. वो कौन होंगे या नबी अल्लाह? फरमाया, they are those people जो रिश्वत लेंगे और माल हराम में मुब्तला होंगे. That their earnings were haram. They knew what was right, they knew what was wrong. And I'm sure Imam Yusha, when he has been doing the Arba'in of Imam Nawawi, hadith number 5 of Imam Nawawi describes the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyin. The halal has been described and is clear. Wal-haramu bayyin, and I've clarified what haram is. I.e. on the day of judgment, nobody has a reason to say, I didn't know whether my earnings were halal or haram. I didn't know whether this aspect of my trade was halal or haram. Or if somebody who takes rishwat, who's taking bribes, whether it be at work or any way that he's taking bribes, hadith describes such people on the day of judgment their faces will be turned into faces of pigs. खिंजीर की शक्ल में ऐसे लोग उठाए जाएंगे. फिर वो लोग होंगे, नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम described that they will be turned upside down. They will come on the day of judgment with their face on the ground, and hadith just describe ulte, upside down. They'll be walking on their face, and they'll be dragging their face on the earth, making their way towards the day of judgment. There'll be a group of those people. Who are those people, Ya Rasulullah? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described they were ये वो लोग हैं that went into usury, जो सूद का लेन देन कारोबार करते हैं. On the day of judgment, nobody will need to ask, what did you do in life? He's upside down, he's walking on his face, or he's dragging his face on earth. Why? According to interest. And over here, again, just for completion, as we know the fatwa of the ulama for this country, that when it comes to the question of mortgage comes up, if it's, and the ulama have described for a single house, which is a necessity in this country to survive, you're allowed to take the mortgage for that one home. Beyond that, the second, third, fourth, fifth, or business related interest loans that you take, or loan for cars, because you could survive in a small car. Nobody's asking you to take out a big loan. Shadi biyahon ke liye log, they take out loans from the banks. Kya hai ji, dhoom dhaam se shadi karni hai, you got to take a loan. Those type of interests which are within your control, and yet you abuse the system. The ulama have only given the exception where there is no other survival mode. Even then, if somebody thinks I can rent, then bismillah, you should go for taqwa. But above that, if anybody is abusing the law, the Sharia law, and taking interest-based loans, and is contracting with fellow Muslims using interest, फरमाया ऐसे लोग क़यामत के रोज उल्टे आएंगे. They will come on the day of judgment walking in that manner. Allahu Akbar. फिर फरमाया ऐसे भी लोग होंगे who will wake up on the day of judgment and they will all be blind. On earth they had sight, they could see. On the day of judgment they will come blind. In that group of all the blind people. Ya Nabiullah, what reason is it they've been turned blind? फरमाया ये मेरी उम्मत के वो काजी और हुक्मा होंगे, those judges and people in power that would give wrong decisions based on the political and or any other influence that they had over others, and they made wrong decisions just to make their way easy. फरमाया ऐसे लोग क़यामत के रोज अंधे उठाए जाएंगे. Then you have those people. Farmaya, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that they will wake on the day of judgment, they'll be made deaf. And they'll come in that group of people that are all deaf. Ya Nabi Allah, who are those people? Farmaya, ye wo log hain jo apne a'mal par fakhr karte hain ki main नेक हूं. Just because he was close to the masjid and regulating the masjid. And we have this, unfortunately, this illness amongst people that regularly attend the masajid. और यहाँ कोई ऐसा साथी है जो कुरान पाक कसरत के साथ पढ़ता है, and he starts to feel confident about himself. I read a lot of Quran. I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Or somebody that regularly comes to the masjid. If somebody else comes to the masjid, ye kahan se aa gaya? I deserve the first row because I've been serving for so long. So I deserve the first row. You have people like this. And we meet people like this, and you have to really reprimand them and hold them accountable. कि तुम्हारे ये आमाल लोगों के लिए थे या अल्लाह के लिए? Why were you doing this? All those generations, Imam Khushairi rahimahullah, Allahu Akbar. बातों में से बातें निकलती हैं. Imam Khushairi in his Risala Khushairiyah described that it was a बुजुर्ग जिन्होंने 40 साल नमाज पहली सफ में तकबीर ऊला के साथ अदा की. How many years? 40 years. First row behind the Imam, Takbir Ula, as soon as the Imam would say Allahu Akbar, he was there. He describes Imam Khushairi, वो अपना वाक़या बयान करते हैं अपने दौर का. Imam Khushairi 5वीं सदी के बुजुर्ग हैं, 500 years after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He goes, one day that buzurg was late to the masjid and he had to pray at the back row. And that day when he had to pray in the back row, he felt shy about himself. आज लोग क्या कहेंगे जी? 40 साल first row, आज बाबा जी को हो क्या गया? What happened to him? Why is he turned up late? He goes, I felt so bad about myself that why am I praying in the back row? He goes, that very moment I had that realization कि मैंने जो 40 साल नमाज में पहली सफ में पढ़ी थी ना, लोगों को दिखावे के लिए की थी. He goes, that Buzurg then started to repeat 40 years of salah because he thought, he considered all of that I did for the people. ये लोग थे तकवा वाले, who would actually hold themselves accountable, who would do what we call mujahada. They would hold themselves accountable. Muhasaba. What am I doing this for? Coming back to the aspect of sincerity. If our deeds are being done to show people, to get a bit of praise, to have a recognition in the community, Nabi Islam said, those people that boast and become confident in the good deeds that they are able to do, just because Allah given you wealth and you give more, you start becoming confident. I give so much in charity, nobody else does. And you look at all the different scenarios and all the different amal. Anybody that becomes confident in a good deed that he does, then such a person, if he dies without making tawbah, will be risen as death on the day of judgment. Nobody will have to ask, Hazrat, what sin did you do? Everybody will know on the day of judgment. فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا. Allahu Akbar. And then on the day of judgment, there will be those people, Farmaya ke their tongues will be hanging out of their mouth. And this is for me. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Farmaya, Ummad ke wo wa'izeen, those people that will address the community, give them nasiha, and tell them to do righteous deeds, whether they be ulama, whether they be khutaba, those that would address the community and give them nasiha, words of wisdom, but never implemented that in their personal lives. On the day of judgment, they will come, their tongues will be hanging, and they will come in that group of people, everybody will know. This was the Imam Sahib that would give huge, fantastic, mesmerizing talks and speech. And everybody will be wondered like, wow, subhanallah. Imam Sahib absolutely smashed it. Imam Sahib feeling all confident and good about himself as well. But in his private life, Imam Sahib isn't doing any of that stuff. ऐसे वाइज़ीन फरमाया क़यामत के रोज़ ज़बानें उनकी लटकी होंगी. Their tongues will be hanging. فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا. Then there will be a group of those people, Farmaya, that their hands and their feet would have been cut. उनके ना हाथ होंगे ना पैर होंगे. And they will be walking like that on their shins, walking their shins, coming on the day of judgment. Ya Nabi Allah, who are those people? Farmaya, ये वो लोग होंगे जो पड़ोसियों को सताने वाले होंगे. Those people that were always on the case of their neighbor, making life hell for them. You know, now you have to hear stories called neighbors from hell. You've heard that term, haven't you? Neighbors from hell, always making life difficult. Allahu Akbar. Sahaba Kiram would say, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam emphasized the rights of the neighbors so much that we feared, genuinely feared, that one day an ayah would come that you must give from your inheritance to your neighbors as well. That's how close of a relation you have. हदीस ने में फरमाया कि जिस शख्स का पड़ोसी उससे डरता हो या उसके शर से बचने हर बचता हो उसके शर से, फरमाया ऐसा शख्स जहन्नमी है. And if you know that your neighbor is at ease, he's happy that alhamdulillah, I have a Muslim neighbor. Amongst all of the neighbors, he knows, mashallah, you know, this is my Muslim neighbor, no issues. I know I've got his back. I know if I go on a holiday, my home is safe. I know my car is safe. I know my garden is safe. I know my bins are safe. Yeah? If that is the case, then farmaya ye jannati shakhs ki alamat. It's a sign of good character. As Umar Farooq used to say, agar kisi ka iman, kisi ka akhlaq dekhna ho na, if you really want to know whether somebody is a genuine Muslim, there are three ways to know. Either travel with him for more than 3 days. Travel with him, you'll know. In the masjid, it's easy to come in. I can come in, present a lecture, and you all are making good opinions of myself. But you only know whether I'm good or not, whether somebody is righteous or not, when you travel with that person for more than 3 days. पता चल जाएगा फजर को उठता है कि नहीं, पता चल जाएगा उठने बैठने का तरीका क्या है. यहाँ मस्जिद में always माशाल्लाह सुभानअल्लाह टोपी पहनी जुब्बा पहना, you think माशाल्लाह हाजी साहब. But you know his own character when you travel with that person. As Umar Farooq used to say, if you can't travel with him, then do business with him. The moment you do business with that person, you'll know straight away the caliber of his iman. कितना को ईमानदार है या बेईमान है, पता चल जाएगा. नमाज में, मस्जिद में अच्छे अखलाक दहानत दिखाना easy. Anyone can do that. And the third thing Amirul Mu'mineen mentioned, उसका पड़ोसी बन जो पता चल जाएगा कितना ईमान है. You'll know whether that individual is a heavenly individual or one worthy of the Jahannam. From such people who have become difficult for their neighbors and their neighbors have complaints towards them and they die in that manner, on the day of judgment they will come in that group where they have no feet and they have no hands. Every aspect of this hadith is worthy of being written in gold and for us to take lessons from. So many aspects. फिर फरमाया अल्लाहु अकबर, there will be those people that would have a rope made from fire hanging in their neck. गर्दन में आग का तोप पहना हुआ होगा और इस तरह क़यामत के रोज आएंगे. नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से पूछा गया, या नबी अल्लाह, ये कौन होंगे? फरमाया, ये मेरी उम्मत के बादशाह होंगे जिन्होंने लोगों पर जुल्म किया होगा. They are those of my ummah that were in positions of power, particularly mentioning of kings. We can extend that to ministers, we can extend that to people of power. And nowadays, let's suppose in this country, anybody that probably sits in a councillor position or in an MP position, which is the highest position you can have in this country, you are in a position of power, or a local councillor, they would all be understood to be part of this category, that they did zulm upon others. दूसरों पर, लोगों पर जुल्म किया और अपने मनसब का गलत फायदा उठाते हुए, they took advantage of their position. They on the day of judgment will have the rope made from fire hanging. And Allahu Akbar. Then there will be those people, फरमाया कि उनके जिस्म से बदतरीन बदबू आ रही हो. और कैसी बदबू? फरमाया मुर्दार की बदबू आ रही हो. The bodies will give off an odor like one of a dead body. Body को 2 दिन छोड़ दिया जाए ना, you can't go anywhere near it. You know those bodies that are sent abroad, and it takes about 24 hours by the time they get abroad, Kashmir, Pakistan, Lahore, जहाँ भी body जाती है. You can't even open the body after 24 hours. Furthermore, there will be those people that will give off an odor like that of a dead body. या नबी ना वो कौन लोग होंगे? फरमाया ये वो लोग होंगे जो दुनिया में जिना करते थे. Those people that would commit zina. And how prevalent and norm has zina become. particularly speaking to the youth and those young adults of our community, where now access to zina has become so easy. It's as simple as downloading an application, finding someone locally, click, we meet up. That's how easy it has become. You know, before there was a time where you had to go to particular locations. Now it's in your hand. Ask, and I've been to university. I've been to 3 universities, in fact. And I've had my fair share of experience of seeing what's happening in universities. My experience is 15 years old, 16 years old. In 15 years, lots has changed. 15 years ago, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the exposure to nudity and haram the way we have now. And now tell me, when those young adults, those young daughters and sons of this ummah go to university, and let's suppose they're in a different city because they couldn't find their course here. I've seen so many. आंखों देखा हुए मिसाल में दे सकता हूँ. People that were known to be Hafiz of the Quran. I know personally, 15 years back from my university experience. Hafiz of the Quran, led Taraweeh that summer, went to university. I saw him prepare and go to nightclubs, come back 2 a.m., 3 a.m. This is somebody who we will consider to be religious. आम लोगों का क्या हाल होगा? How many of us as adults are aware of what our youngsters and our teenagers are doing in university and college? For all you know, he's got a lecture at Manchester University. You've dropped him there, or you've dropped her there. After that, where she goes, what happens? Do you and I know? This aspect of the hadith has to be described to our community, has to be addressed. And it's a huge, huge, huge problem. And by extension, remember, zina does not always mean behind closed doors in bed. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described zina al-aini al-nadr. Aankhon ka zina. The zina of the eyes is that you look at haram. Zina al-udhun as-sam. The zina of the ear is that you're listening to haram. Zina al-yad al-mas, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described. Haath ka zina hai. That you are committing haram with your hands. Then the zina of the feet, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described. Don't just think when we talk about these people will have that stink and that odor coming from their body is only for those that committed fornication or adultery. By extension, it means all of these things. You have to understand hadith as a subject. Not just pick and choose one bit of understanding of zina and that's it. Allahu Akbar. और लास्ट चीज, आखिरी चीज, नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया, there will be those people that will have a costume made out of what we would consider today of thorns, made out of metal, metallic thorns, and they will be wearing that, and when that's been put on them, you can imagine all the skin ripping off their body and peeling, because you've got thorns that are packing into your body, and then that costume is being put onto you. Farmaya, they will come in that manner. Ye kaun hai? Farmaya, ye meri ummat ke mutakabbir log ho. Those people that have pride and consider themselves better than others. Yawma yunfakhu fi suri fatatuna afwaja. This is the tafseer of just one word. Ek lafaz ki ye tafseer hai, afwaja. You'll come in your groups. Dua kare tamam. Allah Ta'ala हमें मरने से पहले तौबा की तौफीक नसीब करे. And God forbid, if any one of us, और हर कोई अपने अंदर झांक कर देखे, am I in any one of those categories? Am I amongst those that backbiting? Am I amongst those maybe that has haram earnings? Am I amongst those that consider themselves better than others because of a few good deeds I've done? Am I amongst those where my neighbor doesn't get along with me? Am I amongst maybe those people that is abusing their power or their position? Because God forbid, Allah Ta'ala maaf farmaye, agar उस गुनाह से तौबा किए बगैर दुनिया से चले गए और वो आदतें छोड़े बगैर दुनिया से चले गए, क़यामत के रोज कुरान का फैसला है मेरा नहीं. These are not my words. These are words of Allah in the Quran, the elaboration directly from the hadith of the Rasul. Allah Ta'ala नेक अमाल की तौफीक अता फरमा।